Right now, Nassau County lawmakers are announcing legislation to give police officers greater access to mental health resources. This comes a week after a 9th NYPD officer has died because of suicide this year. Let's listen in.
Residents flee from, that our residents seek help from. It's not an exaggeration to say that they put their lives on the line on a regular basis. Our officers deal with some of the worst actors, drug dealers, gangbangers, sexual predators, violent criminals. They suffer from incredible stress that goes with their job, not only those that serve undercover for years at a time, but your average officer who deals with a car pullover or for a drug arrest or a domestic violence situation. You never know what's going to happen in those situations. So they're dealing with that incredible stress. Plus today, we have radicals, extremists, and pandering politicians who have developed a culture of contempt for our police, for hatred for our police. We've seen that in New York City recently, as recently as this weekend. Our police, our corrections are there for us 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They keep our communities safe at their own expense. They have our backs. Today, we in Nassau County say to our officers, we have your backs too. We are there for you. We stand with you. Let me give you some statistics of what has happened, or what is happening in our nation in terms of the emotional stress that's taken its toll on our officers. Now, these statistics are about our police, but they apply equally to corrections officers as well. One study reported that there have been 122 police suicides nationwide this year through early August. In 2018, there were reported 167 suicides, and in 2017, 169 suicides. National Law Enforcement Officers Fund reported that more police officers died by suicide last year than the 145 who died in the line of duty. The Center for Disease Control reports that the suicide rate for police officers is 23 per 100,000, whereas in the general population, that rate is 14 suicides per 100,000. As I said, there are similar statistics for our corrections officers. The legislation that we are introducing today will create an Office of Mental Health Awareness within the Nassau County Police Department. It will require a mental health action plan for our police officers. It will ensure that our police officers are getting the mental health training and resources they deserve. Again, it will also ensure that our corrections officers are receiving the same training and resources. It will fund peer-supported groups, formal peer-supported groups. It will create a smartphone app and a website which will have the resources for mental health training and facilities for our police. And we will work with other police organizations, the New York City Police Department and other police organizations within the city, as well as local police organizations, to make sure that the residents who live here, who work for those departments, are getting similar resources. Again, this is an important step that we take today. It's a step that we have to take. It's a message that we stand with our police officers. It's a message that we will get them the support that they need in this difficult environment. We expect bipartisan support from our colleagues in the legislature, as well as from the administration, and we expect the support from our Commissioner of Police, Pat Ryder. So I'd like to introduce several other speakers who will address the topics today, starting off with our President of the Nassau County PBA, James McDermott.
Thank you, Rich, and I want to thank the legislative majority for putting this together today and being proactive in protecting law officers, police officers, detectives, superior officers, and correction officers. We have a very difficult job. I'm not complaining, but we see things that not everybody else sees. We get called to people's homes at the worst of times. They're not calling us to celebrate a child's first birthday. They're calling us when they're in the midst of crisis. We see things that you can't unsee. I've seen too many things that I don't even want to tell you about. It's, and it's with you forever. And you have all the stresses that everybody else has. everybody here deals with stress. We all have families and children, and we're trying to put them through school, and taxes on Long Island are very high, and everything else that goes with being a resident on Long Island. And on top of it, we have to deal with those stresses. And like Rich touched upon, we're dealing with society right now is portraying police officers as something that they're not. We're not getting the backing. As you've seen in New York City yesterday, the highest post in New York City couldn't back a police officer. I know we're not here for that, but that's the stresses that we deal with. Not having the backing of the politicians and not having the backing of the public. This is beautiful because these are the politicians, and they're here to support us, and we're grateful. I want to thank Rich again, and if there's anything I can do going forward, I'm here. And thank you all for coming out.
Thank you, James. And I'd like to introduce the president of the Detectives Association, Inc., John Wighouse.
Thank you. I would like to thank Presiding Officer Nicolello and all the legislators that are present with us today to support the law enforcement of Nassau County. Law enforcement assists the public during the most stressful and dire times. However, in the law enforcement community, we tend to put up a tough exterior and bottle up our emotions. Units such as employee assistance and peer support provide an outlet for our members and their families to communicate their emotions to our specially trained members of the department in an atmosphere of strict confidentiality. We welcome and appreciate the support shown by the Nassau County Legislature. Thank you.
Thank you, John. I'd like to introduce the president of the Court Officers Benevolent Association, Brian Sullivan.
Thank you, Rich. Thank you to the members of the legislature. This is an issue that hits home with me, actually. We have, like President Wighouse said from the detectives, we do have an EAP in all of our programs. But 2 years ago, a good friend of mine, a classmate that I started with 28 years on the job, committed suicide. Getting close to the end of the line with the light at the end of the tunnel, thinking he's going to retire soon, he inexplicably and without leaving any note, leaving a family behind, committed suicide. And it's not the first time I've seen it on our job. Post-traumatic stress disorder statistically is similar to that for police and corrections for those that are returning military over the course of your career. There's statistics for corrections where over the nationwide, 13 correction officers commit suicide monthly, and there's high rates of alcoholism and drugs and issues, things like that. Unfortunately, when you work in law enforcement, you're not immune to the same pressures and the same stresses that everybody else in day-to-day life are susceptible to. But we don't work in office buildings. We don't work for the post office. We work with the worst that society has to offer. And like was said by one of my colleagues earlier, that in still dealing with those same stressors and family problems and daily problems, you're dealing with the worst that society has to offer. And we all know that the world is upside down right now, and that everybody in a uniform is thought of as the enemy. So for the legislature here to be coming forth with this and providing training for our officers, training for our people, and training for their people, it's definitely a good day in Nassau County, and I want to thank them very much for this. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Brian. I want to just introduce several of our legislators. We have our Vice Chair of the Public Safety Committee, Steve Rhodes, with us today. Steve. We have Legislator Laura Schaefer, Legislator James Kennedy. To say a few words, Legislator Bill Gaylor.
Thank you, Rich. Thank you. Thank you to all my fellow legislators, and a special thanks to our members in law enforcement represented by the members behind us. Each one of our members of law enforcement, of the Sheriff's Department, correction officers, is an important asset to this county. They matter. They're important to us, and we take this time today to let them know how important they are and how valuable a service that each member provides. I'm honored to be part of this delegation that's presenting this legislation today, because it's another step that we as legislators and elected officials can do to demonstrate our commitment to our members in law enforcement. And if there's a message to take back, please take back to your members that we are committed to supporting all in law enforcement, and that each member is an important person in our community, an important asset in our county government. And if they're suffering, we're all suffering. And so I'm just proud to be part of this legislation that's going to provide an opportunity and an outlet for members of law enforcement and the corrections department to seek the help that they may need, because it is a stressful environment that we work under. It is a stressful environment that each police officer has to deal with when they suit up and go out and perform the tasks that we ask them to perform to keep our county safe. And rest assured, we are living in one of the safest counties in the nation, if not the safest. And that's totally as a result of the members of law enforcement doing an outstanding job. So we continue to wish them well. We'll continue to provide them the resources that they need to do their job effectively and efficiently. We thank them for their service, and we ask them to keep us and continue to keep us safe in this great county. God bless everybody.
Thank you, Bill. I'd ask Legislator Tom McKevitt to say a few words.
Thank you, Rich. You know, being a police officer isn't a job where you just simply go and punch the clock and you walk away. Police officers on duty 24 hours a day, whether they're at work or not. You know, something they're always thinking about what they deal with on the job. Detectives, they're always working in the case. And my father's a New York City detective for many, many years. And again, that job never ends, even when you go home. And it's important that we go and we provide the resources to those who are serving law enforcement that will be there to protect them and help them when they are in times of need. These are our fathers, our mothers, our sons and daughters, our brothers and sisters. They're some of the hardest-working people in our community. And again, we should be able to go and reaching out and providing the resources they deserve. And not only that, but not are we just going to limit this to Nassau County police officers, we're going to be working with the other police departments for our Nassau County residence police officers to ensure that if they're in time of need, that this county will be for them whenever that case may be. We call them at any time. They'll be able to call us at any time to make sure that they're protected as well. Thank you.
Thank you. And Legislator Rhodes Walker.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. I know it's been said over and over and over, but our police, every aspect of our police department means very, very much to us. And on a personal note, wherever I am and wherever I have the opportunity, whenever I'm around any of our officers, detectives, corrections officers, I always take the time to make sure I thank them. And I don't thank them just for myself, but I thank them for all of us, for the job they do, for always being here for us. And we provide them with all the training they need, the equipment they need to make sure that they have everything to help them do their job. But we also need to help them in a mental aspect. So today's legislation will certainly do that. It will give them added extras to go to be able to speak to someone, to reach out. The app that they will have, that they can just press that app and get the information they need, know where to go. That's also very, very important to them. And we want to know that we want them to know how much we care about our officers. And I have to say, in Nassau County, I do think our officers know that they are truly respected. And for the most part, people do think very, very highly of our officers. But that isn't enough. We have to provide everything we possibly can for our officers, for their families, and for those officers who live in our county that work in other jurisdictions to be able to help them too. So God bless our officers. God bless you. Thank you for all you do. And never forget that all of us here back the blue.
Good. Any questions?
Question for Jim. How many Nassau County police officers have committed suicide this year or last year? And what resources are available now?
I think it's one last year.
Who's last year? Oh, that was a couple years ago.
Fortunately, I could say that no one committed suicide over the last 2 years. But I think 3 years ago we had an officer. So thank God. We're not immune to it. I mean, New York City is a department of 36,000 members compared to our 2,650. So the numbers are in our favor, but we've had our share over the years.
And for an officer now, if they do reach out, what resources are available? I mean, there's plenty within the department now. So how will this be different than that?
Well, you know what? It's the age of technology, and you heard you're going to have an app. Everybody's on their phone, unfortunately. I see people here on their phone right now. You could just push a button, and you'll be connected to someone, and that's the best, because when these people get to that point, that lowest point that they're at, if they could just push a button, get help, that would be perfect.
I just want to add one thing. There was a story in Newsday Sunday that highlighted this issue for our officers in Nassau County as well as New York City, and the commissioner had the exact right response about the resources we're giving. Our concern is that we want to give these resources not just when it hits the newspapers like this. We want to make sure it persists over the course of time. And by creating an office dedicated to this within the police department, and by using technology and putting the force of law behind it, we believe that we're going to raise the resources that are given. New York City actually provides some excellent services. They have a website I can give you that provides a wealth of information. We want to do something like that here in Nassau County.
What do you say to officers who are saying that if they get help, they'll be retaliated against, like on desk duty or moving overtime or things like that? There is that fear within the department.
What do I say? Your life's more important than overtime. Overtime. I think they know that. It's not about overtime. It's about like almost admitting that there's something wrong, and the idea that you don't have a firearm with you when you're used to working on a sector car, now you're in the station house. Now people know your business, even though they don't know exactly what's going on in your life. They know there's something going on. It's more important that you get help. Like I stressed recently, we have health benefits that you can go to counselors on your own, and the department wouldn't know about that. So, and everything that you discuss with them is confidential. So I would think if you're low and you're feeling that way, and you're resistant or hesitant to go to the police department about it, pick up your benefits book and find a counselor, or reach out to a PBA guy. We'll find you somebody to help you. That's for sure.
Traditionally, the police department never reveals when officers commit suicide. You ask publicly, they won't answer. So now that it's so out there in the NYPD, do you think it's a service or a service to the officers that it's public knowledge now?
Well, we're all here because we're all aware of what's going on in the world. Public awareness. Everybody should know. Everybody should know what's going on. Police. I don't think we've been hiding anything in the past. We've had police officer suicides recently, where in Nassau County, where it was in the press that it was a suicide. You can't really hide the facts of the case, and I don't think you should be. It just brings to light that there is a problem, and that's why we're here. There's a problem. Like I said, you're dealing with all the stresses that everybody else is dealing with, coupled with all these other things that are going on, and the more aware we are, the more proactive we're going to be, and this is a step in the right direction. I think it's a horrible decision. I think that Officer Pantaleo didn't receive due process. You have a mayor that was running for president, and during his campaign and prior to the departmental trial, he stated that the Garner family will receive justice. So he already predetermined the fate of the officer. The departmental trial and thus firing was just, going through the motions after he determined that. This is America. Everybody is, should have due process. This man was, not indicted in Richmond County. There was a federal investigation, and they found nothing to convict or him to. And then, the mayor, for his own personal reasons, and probably his own presidential reasons, decided to go, and fire this man. Listen, it's a terrible thing that happened. I'll tell you for sure, as a police officer, nobody meant to to kill anyone there. It was an unfortunate day that happened, but I'm quite certain if Mr. Garner would have just allowed himself to be arrested, he'd be alive today. Anyone else? Thank you.
Thank you.
Good job.
We have been watching Nassau County legislators announcing new legislation to improve mental health resources available to police officers. This comes a week after a 9th NYPD officer has died by suicide this year. The new bill would create an Office of Mental Health Awareness within the Nassau County Police Department. It will also require a mental health action plan for police officers, as well as fund peer-supported groups. Lawmakers say they want to ensure police officers know that they have support whenever it is needed. If you find yourself in need of someone to speak to, there is help out there. Call 646-610-6730, or you can text BLUE to 741-741. We also have all of this information on our website, cbsnewark.com.